Hi everyone, I'm Bailey. Now that Corey has shown you the inside scoop on how we moved GitHub development to Codespaces, you might be asking yourself, how do I get set up with my own projects? Or if you're a manager, the question is likely, how do I onboard my team? Luckily for you, Allison and I are here to help you out.
Absolutely. We're here to ensure you have all the details you need to start working with Codespaces now, whether that's getting your theme and terminal prompt just right, setting cost and access controls for your organization, or configuring your team's repository for one-click startup. Bailey, where do you want to start?
Well, when onboarding our teams to Codespaces, configuration was honestly the key to success. I mean, obviously, if you haven't specified your project setup needs, one-click setup doesn't exactly take one click. And when we talk about this configuration, we're specifically thinking about how to ensure that the development container Codespaces provides is created exactly to your project's needs. With dev containers, we get to define these specifications in the devcontainer.json. This is a configuration file that lets us indicate things like the image we'd like to use or project-wide extensions. Since containers are at the heart of Codespaces, we make sure that you can reuse all of your existing context. Your existing Docker files, Docker Compose files, and lifecycle scripts can all be referenced from within the devcontainer.json. And since this file is checked in with your source code, it means anyone that creates a codespace from this repo automatically gets a really standard and repeatable experience. And I personally love this because it enables everyone to just get started really fast without having to spare a second thought to set up. For folks that are new to the team or the project, it's really as simple as ensuring they have access to the right repositories, and then they're well on their way to their first PR with Codespaces. So we've clearly talked to the benefits of these dev containers, but I think it's time we see it for ourselves.
I can't agree more, Bailey. Codifying your configuration is really key to a great experience. We provide a default configuration to get you started, but it contains a lot. And we are constantly updating it as we update various tools and runtimes that it contains. By specifying your own dev container definition, you can be sure that each code space you create for a given repository has the same setup. No surprises here, unless you start editing things, but hopefully that's not too much of a surprise. Let's go ahead and dive in. Here we've got a sample project that doesn't have a dev container configuration. It's on our default image, and you can tell that because we say it right here in the terminal, in the welcome mat, as well as the lack of a .dev container folder in the file explorer. The great news is we know how to help you get started because we have lots of templates available to you. If you go ahead and press F1 or Control-Shift-P, you'll invoke the Visual Studio Code command palette. From there, all you need to do is type in add development container configuration files. Clearly, this is a command that I like to use a lot, and hit enter. From here, we'll bring up all of these common definitions that you can choose from. We'll actually look at your project and figure out if there are some templates that are more reasonable to suggest than others. For example, we've got JavaScript files in here, and so we actually recommend our node definitions as a great starting place. You can always see the full list by clicking Show All Definitions. Now, I want a pretty simple definition to start, so I'm gonna go ahead and select Debian. From here, it'll ask me what version I'd like to use. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the default. And finally, it's gonna ask which features I'd like to install. Features are commonly used tools that we can install for you as part of your dev container configuration so that you don't have to figure out how to install things like the GitHub CLI or maybe Docker and Docker support. You just have to click a checkbox and hit OK. From there, we'll ask any additional options that you need to select. So I'll click latest. And then we go ahead and build the dev container configuration for you. So I've got my dev container.json, I've got a Docker file as well, and there you go, a dev container configuration all set and ready for you. To actually apply these changes to your code space, you can go ahead and invoke the Visual Studio Code command palette one more time and type in rebuild. As well, if you make any changes to your dev container configuration, we also pop up a toast that lets you know and allows you to rebuild right there. Rebuild allows you to experiment with your dev container configuration as much as you'd like without pushing changes out to the repository that might mess up other teammates. Simply edit your dev container, rebuild, see the changes, and figure out if you like them. And don't worry if you get into a weird spot. You can always delete the devcontainer.json and any Docker files, hit rebuild, and start from scratch. Once you figure out the perfect configuration, go ahead and commit those files and push them back out to the repository. That way, any teammates can benefit from the configuration you've crafted. Now that we know how to access our templates and iterate on a dev container configuration, let's take a look at a few properties that are really important to your overall setup. First, the image property. This allows you to easily reference an image from any registry you'd like. If you're already storing your images on GitHub Container Registry, we've recently shipped an update that allows you to reference them directly from the devcontainer.json without any extra permissions that you need to set. It's really as simple as ensuring your account has read access to the image in question and then putting the link right here in the image properties. You're all set to go, no hassle needed. Next, we have extensions. This allows you to install the set of Visual Studio Code extensions that your developers need to be productive with this particular project. These could be linters, specific language support, collaboration tools, and so much more. The marketplace is really at your disposal. No longer will developers have to go through the laundry list and install their extensions one by one. We take care of all of that for you as part of creation. Next up, we have two port-specific properties, forward ports and port attributes. The forward ports property indicates the set of ports that we should forward automatically. Quite intuitive, I know. Whereas the port attributes property tells us specific details about those ports. So for example, we are forwarding port 3000 by default. We are labeling it as application. That's our front end application. On auto forward, so basically this is what is the behavior when we see the port is active and being forwarded. We're gonna go ahead and open the browser automatically. You can also specify a toast that you'd like to notify or leave it silent if you prefer more of a focus mode. And finally, the protocol. In this case, we're using HTTPS. Finally, we've come to the post create command, which will run these specified commands after the container is created. This is a great place to kick off installing dependencies, cloning other repos, or any other preparation commands you'd normally do manually as part of project setup. And this is just one of several lifecycle hooks we have available to you in the devcontainer.json. Others you might want to check out are post start command or post attach command. So we really have fine level granularity for you to figure out when your script should execute. That was a lot, and there is so much more. But if I tried to talk about everything the devcontainer.json can do, we'd be here all day. So be sure to check out our documentation and start iterating and rebuilding.
On top of configuring projects, cost control is another huge factor for people considering moving their development to the cloud. I think everyone who has ever run cloud compute has a very real fear of waking up to a runaway bill for thousands of dollars. Thankfully, we have built-in features and explicit policies to mitigate all of that stress. Codespaces will automatically stop running after 30 minutes of inactivity, or when a user has too many Codespaces running at once. For direct control, administrators can also set spending limits for their team's Codespaces, limit org member access, and export usage data so you can get to know those usage patterns. Codespaces are also cost flexible by design, so you can select exactly how much power you need in your machine and change it at any point. So you can power up for those high intensity operations when you need it without having to commit to 32 cores for the lifetime of your Codespace. And if you're just looking to make a quick file edit, review a PR, or any other task that doesn't require compute, don't forget about github.dev. That's our editor experience you can access just by pressing the dot key on any repo page. The web editor is free and available to all GitHub users right now. So if you haven't tried it out, head over to your favorite repo and give it a spin.
All right, so we've covered cost controls, configuration, setup. I think that means we get to talk about personalization now, Bailey, which is one of my personal favorites. When I think about personalization, the first thing that comes to mind is theming. It sort of feels like the new tabs versus spaces debate these days. Since we're leveraging the power of Visual Studio Code for our editor, that means we get to leverage some of the great work the team has done to synchronize settings across any editor instances. First off, you'll need to ensure that settings sync is on. You can do that by going to the gear icon in the bottom left corner of the editor and simply ensuring that it says settings sync is on. Then it's really as easy as updating to the theme you'd like. So I'll go ahead and click the color theme. We're in light mode, but I think we all know that dark theme is better. So I went ahead and changed it in this instance of my Codespace. You'll see that my other Codespace synced to the same theme that I set in my universe demo. What's great with setting sync is that it applies to any editor instances on the web and locally that have setting sync turned on. And even better, it's not just your theme that syncs. With setting sync, you can go ahead and also sync keyboard shortcuts, extensions, snippets, so that anywhere you're using Visual Studio Code feels like home.
Personalization doesn't just stop at the editor level. You can specify shell preferences via dot files. Just be sure to enable them in the Codespaces settings page and ensure that your dot files repo is public. Whether you're building dot files from scratch or updating a current set to work within Codespaces, we recommend testing and iterating on them by cloning them into a Codespace and manually running your install or setup script as you update the files. It's a lot more efficient than pushing the changes to a dot files repo and creating a new Codespace each time to test your changes.
Finally, we know that personalizing your workflow also means enabling you to use the tools that you're already productive in. We'd heard from many customers, both internally and externally, that they wanted to be able to manage and work with their Codespaces right from the command line. And while that wasn't possible at the time, it is now. With our new GitHub CLI integration, you can manage and connect to your Codespaces right from your terminal. Let's take a look. You can get access to the most common management options you already have in the web or through the Visual Studio Code extension, such as creating, deleting, and listing your Codespaces. But the one we're really excited about is this last one, SSH support. While some dedicated users found workarounds in the past to enable SSH, this always involved some initial setup either through the web or Visual Studio Code. But we've now automated all of that setup within the SSH command. It'll go ahead and start up, connect me, and then we are right here in the Codespace that I just created. Now we're connected and working in this Codespace all without ever leaving our terminal.
So between environment configuration, cost controls, and personalizing your tools, hopefully you feel ready to make Codespaces work for you and your team. All that's left is for you to give it a spin. And if you've got any feedback, we're always listening over in GitHub discussions.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy GitHub Codespaces. We'll see you soon.